I was hesitant on whether or not I should even show up. I didn't show up Friday, and Sheets goes on and wins everything, and it looks like everybody in our Discord is winning everything all weekend. So happy to see everybody doing well, man. Great win. Talk briefly a little bit about that in your weekend, and then we'll jump into the slate today.
So I want to talk about the site, and I want to talk about process, okay? Because it's very easy to be results oriented and say, "Oh, Eric won, so now let's brag or whatever." It's not like that. But the key was that everybody was there in the chat, and we were going through the process of using a combination of both the sheets for projections, instinct and gut, plus like bouncing stuff off the community, like as it was going through. And it's probably not appropriate for me to actually build the actual lineup, whatever, the actual thing, but whatever. I really don't care. And we were just going through it, and for those people, honestly, that I'm going to use this opportunity to say this, for those people that come into our chats just to be a freaking pain in the ass, just do me a favor, just stay away, okay? Because we got some good stuff going on in here. You know what I mean? Yeah. And all you're doing is bothering us, and we're here to we're all here to learn, and yes, hopefully win too, but we're all here to learn and to enjoy this. And there was no trollers in there. Like everybody was just kind of in there doing their thing, and I think that helped contribute. And I won the 777, and other people forget that. I mean, other people were just winning all kinds of stuff on that same night, like all different levels of buy-in. You know what I mean? Like it was really, really cool. So that's it. If you guys want to see, listen, you guys, nobody will ever do this, obviously, but I can't help it but recommend it. Go back and check out the YouTube video. We saved it all about how we went and built the lineup, just as an example of how you can actually use process to win. You'll see it actually happen right there. And if you want, you can skip ahead to like the 15-minute mark if you want to get to that actual lineup. But you'll see us go through the projection, go through whatever. And honestly, it's not just about like the projections, okay? Because there were some things that just didn't make sense to all of us, and we just said, I don't care what freaking Reed Detmers looks like on the freaking sheets. I just don't screw with Seattle with lefties. You know what I mean? I'll play all the righties against them all day long, but I don't want to do that. And then for whatever reason, remember the couple of starts before Merrill Kelly, I kind of wanted to play. Wasn't exactly ready to play him yet, but I played him anyway, and he didn't do so well. But I figured I would take a shot with him, and I was kind of on him all day. And even though the projections didn't look that great, the whole slate didn't look that great, so I figured I would take a shot. And then the Seattle complimentary stack just kind of built itself, and that plus like a shit ton of luck, and that's and then there you are. But I listen, we're doing some really good things with the site, and you have some good personalities here. That's a good combination. Listen, we don't joke around. You know what I mean? Like we like to think we have a good sense of humor or whatever, but we don't like. We're very serious about learning. We're very serious about making good plays and talking about the stuff. And if you're interested in that, I think this is a good place to do it. So.
Absolutely. No, well said, man. And really impressed, really happy for you. And it's a great. I do love it when it's like that. When it's one thing that when we're on together, maybe we don't get as much of. But it's great when you have everybody in the Discord, in the chat, just talking about different ideas and sort of coming up, going through your process and them coming up with different ideas of how to do things and asking questions and whatnot. And I think it's a really good way to learn. So,
and you know what, we had a roadie who puts in a lot of work for his playbook, every night. And quite honestly, like one of the pictures I had, I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to go there. And really not because he had him in his playbook, but because he had him in his playbook, I felt a little reassured. You know what I mean? Yeah. That I could use him. And listen, I got pretty lucky. Logan Allen was one batter away from getting run out of the building that night. And he survived like the second inning, and then that led him to get through the fifth and the sixth. But nonetheless, it was listen, it's a good combination of different skill sets and different forms of intelligence. And I don't know. Anyway, moving on, I guess.
And now we can hopefully keep it going this week.
And more of a marketing thing also. The great thing about, again, like when we have wins like that, is that I got I say little lineup, because listen, it's an expensive buy-in, right? But then my one lineup against all the freaking
all the parentheses
guys, all the guys with the 9 lineups or whatever the max is, And I didn't have to face that problem this time. There wasn't like 100 guys around me. It was just one guy that I had to fade. But those are always because that's like, listen, that's a tough. I have to say that's a tough freaking tournament in general. And when you have to face multiple lineups, it's extra tough. So I feel very fortunate they were able to get that done.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, man. No, that was that really is hard. So it's really awesome when you can take it down. But let's
weekend. There it is.
Yeah, here we go. So let's get into this slate. What are you thinking about in this? I mean, we've got a little bit of weather concerns, which it looks like this game could even start in the delay. But as long as there's no in-game delay, obviously Strider's going to be very popular. He's really expensive, and it's the same thing as always. I mean, with Atlanta, like they're going to be unowned today, basically, or very low owned. And I think that is a reason to try to play them. The problem is it's going to be hard to do pitching wise. So what are you doing with this game?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, you got to hand it to DraftKings, man. They've made it difficult to play guys. I mean, they made it difficult to play pitchers. They made it difficult to play hitters, and that's what makes it kind of fun. I don't think I'm going to play Strider only because if you do that, you're going to either, at least in the way I play it, you're going to either have to play a really, really cheap pitcher or a really, really cheap stack, and I don't know if I can get that done. I mean, so listen, tell me who's going to score the most fantasy points. I would say most likely Strider. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Now, with that said, I will say that I ran a Saberson build and I got a lot more of them than I would hand building. That's because Saberson just loves to find these freaking cheap stacks and just 5-man stack them all day long. Like 5 Nick Madrigals together. I don't care what what I mean. Just so I can get my pictures in sometimes. But Strider is the best pitching play on the slate, as the Braves are the best hitting stack on the slate. And I don't know if I can get to either of them. So that's just kind of my opinion on this.
Yeah, and that's going to be what I'm going to try and figure out is if I can actually do it. I like the idea of trying to get to Atlanta more so than just wanting to get to Strider, obviously, because you're not going to be able to play Strider with Atlanta. But I definitely would like to try to attempt it. Put it that way. Next up, you've got KC Boston.
Yep.
I think this is naturally going to be the one of the chalky spots for Boston today. And I think it makes perfect sense. It's in Boston, obviously. It's a big, it's great for them. Reagan's is not good, and it's a bad bullpen. So you've got a pretty, it's not a great lineup that they have out there, but they're basically pretty inexpensive, and it's going to be hard not to have the Red Sox as one of the chalkier teams tonight. I have interest in them, but I would like to try to avoid the chalk if I can. How about you?
Do you have any interest in Kansas City at all on the other side, or no?
No.
Right. So what I'm getting right now is I have Boston as one of the top overall stacks when you combine both raw points, upside, and value, and I'm getting KC as like light years the best pure value play. That's the team that I was kind of like hinting at when I said that Saberson will like to jam in like these like cheapo stacks with Strider and stuff. And like, for example, like when I ran a Saberson build just before, it got me literally 57% Kansas City, and so this is one of those things where you have to think about what types of builds you really want to play, and for me, I don't know if I want to do something like that. I don't know if I want to play, all this Massey and who these guys are, Massey, Melendez, they're all cheap enough. But I just feel as though that there's got to be better other hitting environments where you could actually put up some points. And Bello, he keeps the ball on the ground. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where Kansas City's really going to get these runs from enough to make it worth it. And I just feel as though even though let's say Strider gets 30 or something like that I can find someone else. You know what I mean? I can find other pitchers to get there, or at least get within a couple of points of them where I could play actual bats. So I have to make that decision. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. So for me, Boston does rate to be, if not the top, one of at least the top 2 or 3 stacks on the board. And then Kansas City is definitely value.
Yeah, I understand the value from KC. The problem is So you have Bello, who will give up some home runs occasionally, but he doesn't really he really only had like one really bad start this season. And I don't know. It actually crossed my mind earlier, like when I saw the ownership projections out, I actually started considering Bello. But I don't know if I have to make that play. But I'm having a harder time with the Kansas City outside of maybe a mini stack or a one-off or something. I just can't see getting a full stack through for them. But I definitely could see a mini stack, just because like you said, they're so cheap. All right, Toronto, Cleveland. Sheets, what are your thoughts in this one?
Yeah, this is one I don't have much of at all. I'm not getting to either of the pitchers, and the best I can say for the hitting is I am seeing Toronto as like on my board, but not quite getting into priority land. So if I get to them in MME, I'll play them. But aside from that, not much. So this is, I guess, one of the closer games to a pass that I have.
Yeah, I get it, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I actually think like there's probably, if you wanted to dumpster dive, both of these pitchers could be in consideration. I don't think either of them are super desirable. Gavin Williams looked a little bit better lately. Ryu did not look good his first start. But I wouldn't write off the possibility of both these pitchers, and I also wouldn't write off these offenses. But none of it's a priority for me, so I guess I'm just sort of happy to move on. It's kind of interesting. Toronto is looking like they're going to be really popular, and I'm a little surprised by that. Might need to revisit a little later, but if they're going to be popular, that makes it even easier for me to fade. So I'm sort of with you. I'm not overly interested in that game. Of course, I might change my mind as I go through and try and actually build, but as of right now, definitely not a priority. Chicago and the Mets. This one has got a little bit of weather too, right? Or let me see. No, did I get that game mixed up? Yeah, no, it does. It could have a little bit of weather, and it does have strong winds blowing out to left right now. They're 18 miles an hour. There's a big storm just in the south, and it's sort of trickling into some other parts of the country. So overall here, I don't think I'm going to probably end up doing much of this with this game. I certainly could understand a Met stack. That would be my highest level of interest, and even that's not that interesting to me. So that's what I've got is a Met stack possibility.
I think I'm in complete agreement with that overall assessment that Mets stack possibility, but not a priority. I also do have the Cubs as kind of again, stack possibility, not a priority. The weather situation, again, it's I'd have to get Mrs. Sheets' take on this, but it was raining earlier today, and from what I'm hearing, there was obviously going to be a break in the weather for like a long time, but there is like thunderstorm threats like later this evening. So I don't know what later this evening necessarily means, but if later this evening 10:30 becomes later this evening like 9, then that could be a problem. So listen, check raw. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to go heavy on this game, I would just double check on this one. And no Singer for me, no Smiley, and I gotta tell you though, the wind's blowing out. I mean, the Mets are in kind of like just FML mode right now. Like, you get a pitcher at 6,800 against a team like that, they could like throw a no hitter. You know what I mean? Like I've seen that type of performance from teams that have just no interest in playing anymore. But right now, I'm just not getting much of this. Maybe a little Mets, maybe a little Chicago.
Yep. Definitely understand. And as of right now, I do have Smiley as the pitcher, but I'm seeing some potential of other things. So I don't know. It's just, I need to figure this one out a little bit later. Colorado, Milwaukee. So you're going to have, I think Peralta is going to be the most popular pitcher on the slate. And this is a good time to talk to you about it, Cheats, because as you say, Peralta's never done anything for you. So will he be doing anything for you tonight is the question, because I think he is a really good option. And I certainly understand the argument for stacking Milwaukee. I thought they were actually going to be more popular than they are, so maybe I can actually revisit this stack. I was not going to stack it because I thought they were going to be overowned, and people are just going to say, "Oh, Lambert sucks," and Colorado's got a terrible bullpen. But they are, it's not in Colorado, obviously. But because they're so low owned, I think Milwaukee might actually be a really interesting stack, and they've got some really cheap pieces that you can fit in that makes the stack easy to play. So I'm going to say that Milwaukee and Peralta are both interesting to me here.
Yeah, Peralta's showing up as the best overall value by a decent amount. He's going to be probably 35-40% owned in the lottery, maybe 55-60, I think, in the other one. And I just have to ask Leonidas or whatever his name is. I promised him I would tell him whenever I'm playing Peralta so he could bet against him. I will say this: that if you play Peralta, then probably don't play the Red Sox. But I'm not convinced that Milwaukee is going to be even the slightest bit low on him. I'm getting to Milwaukee
yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Quite a bit, and so I have this. I think that something like Peralta with Milwaukee might end up being really chalky. I would say, this is, kind of gross, but I wouldn't be opposed to a Colorado something just for fun. Not in my big buy-in or anything like that, but I wouldn't be supposed. And I always think about like what types of teams to go with, with leverage against the most popular pitchers or whatever. Peralta hasn't been like this. I guess this whole season. I guess it's all in my head.
No. He's had some rough outings.
Yeah, and considering how popular it's going to be, I'll play. Listen, and I'll put it to you another way. If I get to Colorado MME, I'm certainly not going to X them out. Right. And I might up them a little bit. But look, Peralta does show up as the best play. Milwaukee shows up for me as one of the top 3 or 4 stacks. And that's pretty much it.
Yep. All right. Now we've got your Yankees in Chicago. Okay, so on Garrett Cole, versus Strider and all that, you are getting a big discount on Cole. It may be enough to where I actually think that just becomes the better play. And I also still am not like over the moon about the White Sox offense. So I'm totally good with Garrett Cole here. I actually think he might be a little bit under projected. And certainly his ownership on early runs seems like a way lower than it should be. I don't think he should be like 10 or 15%, and C should be 25. I think both pitchers, basically I like both pitchers in this game. And I like the fact that Cole is going to be less owned. So I do think that I could see myself with like using Cole as my SP1, maybe some Cole Peralta, but I do like Cole quite a bit here. And I think C's is totally viable. He's just been a little bit streaky this year, but the strikeout upside is definitely there. So I'm interested in both pitchers.
Yeah, I don't understand any of it with the Garrett Cole. I don't understand the projection one bit. And in fairness, he's been projected like this a lot this year.
Right.
And I'm not interested in this projection in this game. You know what I mean? Like we've seen performances by guys like Dane Dunning against Chicago, right? Where they put up 35 and stuff like that. We've pitched like terrible we've targeted terrible right-handed pitchers because they were against Chicago. And I'm getting Cole at probably 15% ownership, maybe less, who knows. I really don't care what his price is, if you want to know the truth. If you get, let's put you another way. If you get a Strider game where he only gets 25 or something like that, and you get 30 out of Cole, I don't care if he's 11-3 is just fine by me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you get that Peralta game where Peralta's doesn't have a great game, you're going to want those raw points out of your pitcher, and I think Cole's a great play here. My original idea was either Cole Peralta or Cole Cease, actually, or something else actually. But Cease, playing Cease. Listen, as bad as I am at playing Peralta, I'm like even worse at playing Cease. So take this with a grain of salt. I don't have him projected all that great, but listen, the reality is that it's Peralta and Strider, and then a big drop as far as like the overall like values go. Then you have like Cole, Cease, and a whole bunch of these other guys. So you're probably pivoting whatever you do, if you don't play Peralta and or Strider. But what are people going to do if they play Strider? Like, who's going to be there? I guess they can play. They're going to try to play him and Peralta. But if not, they're going to get to some of these other cheap. Maybe we'll get to these cheapos to talk about later. But maybe Cease is going to be popular. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think Cease is going to be popular.
Yeah. Now, I ask you about this because you have more comments on this than a lot of people. Do you have any opinion on playing the two of these guys together in this game?
I don't like doing it in general. I think it's fine, but if I'm going to have more than 3 or 4 pitchers that I'm using anyway, and some are in the same game, I'll just build the lineups where they're not in the same game. I just build the lineups without them, and I don't need to. I can go Cease, Peralta, and then I could try to build a Cole Strider lineup and see what happens. But I would just prefer to go about it that way.
I do think I am getting, by the way, to a little bit of the Yankees here. I guess it's going to depend on the lineups and wherever it goes. I mean, like I think Jake Bauers can hit first, like sub
20%. Yeah.
And he'll be battling with who's the other? Oh, the guy from Boston is going to be really cheap also. Maybe not 2,700, but yeah. But yeah, so
Jake Bauers can hit home runs though. Like, I mean, this guy actually has Jake Bauers hit 11 home runs and 150 at bats against right-handed pitching. Like, this is
I will tell you who else can hit home runs. Aaron Judge can hit home runs too.
Yes, he can.
And so can Stanton, and Bader's been better. I mean, and Cease can give up stuff, So I don't actually mind the Yankees here now that I'm talking through this a little bit.
Yeah, I think that, and Cease that his control has not been great this year. I don't mind the idea of taking some shots. It's a smaller slate, so I don't have it as a priority, but I certainly am open-minded to it. All right, moving on to San Francisco and the Angels, Logan Webb and Sandoval. And as I always, sort of end up with Logan Webb, he just sort of probably is going to be on the outside looking in for me. I do, however, think Sandoval is a very reasonable spend down. I don't mind gambling with him at all against these Giants, and I think it should be looked at as a gamble. I think that it is a high risk play to some extent. But I think Sandoval is viable enough to where I'm probably going to take a shot or two.
When I first just looked at the slate without looking at projections, I thought that Sandoval was going to be like a really close second tier pitcher. I didn't quite get there, but I that's one again I could force in, because you're going to need. I think you're going to need something low owned, and I think both these guys are reasonable. I think that Logan Webb is reasonable for no other reason that, I mean, he's like exactly the same price as Peralta, right? But this is really the Sheets revenge. I mean, I think if you rated the top 3 pitchers I get wrong most, it'd be Peralta, Cease, and Logan Webb. So so I think Logan Webb could be actually an interesting pivot off of all this. As far as the hitting goes, I actually have San Francisco as a mild, like 8th team or something like that. But aside from that, this as they used to say, like, this is tournament only, whatever that means, right? Like, this is you have to be. These are really kind of low on plays for this whole game.
Yeah, and you got Jolly in chat. He's asking if you're running SaberSim. I don't exactly know what that question means. But
I'll run a build after. Yeah.
We can do that. I do want to point out, though, the one thing Jolly says here, I think is a huge mistake that DFS players make all the time. And it was like me getting on you 2 years ago for Arizona, even though it was because he's saying that it seems like Colorado and Detroit always deliver. Well, I can just say, looking at the numbers, couldn't be further from the truth. Colorado has a below average offense, and that's playing in Colorado. And Detroit has scored the second fewest runs in baseball. So I think that there's because people have a memory, like when a team's supposed to score, they're going to get shut down and they end up scoring 10 runs that night. Everybody's like, oh, that team always comes through. It just sticks in your head the wrong way. So I think you got to really make sure to look at the overall numbers, because it's like, and then you get the other side of it where people are saying, this season we've had a lot of this where the Dodgers just don't hit. They never come through. They never do enough. They never do this and that. Well, they've scored the third most runs in baseball. You know what I mean? And they've also done it with the most power. There's things that we just can't ignore and act like they're a hunch. We can't argue over. We have to acknowledge that it's fact or fiction. There's no in between. There's no interpretive amount of it. It's what teams are actually doing, and I just want to make sure people think like that, because it is really easy to have that short memory and remember those other things, that they're just random fluke situations that stick in your head.
Well, Jolly does bring up something that I keep challenging the industry to do is to actually track this. You know, when you think that Detroit always seems to deliver, when you think that Colorado always seems to deliver, or you think that Peralta is always bad chalk, or you think that Cease is always bad chalk, or you think that Haney is sometimes bad. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like us thinking this and being biased by usually I forget what it's called, either confirmation bias or whatever, like whatever happened to you, that's what you think that happens all the time or whatever. Right. It's probably the wrong type of bias or whatever it is. Someone should really do a like track this stuff. Like when
but when you talk about teams performing on a season-long basis, and we're in game 115 or whatever, we don't need to actually track that. That's very simple. You can just look at how many runs the teams scored.
No, I don't mean that. What I mean is to be able to track like
how
the Tigers do against the chalkiest pitcher on the slate or something like that, relative to their ownership or something. You know, some listen. This is for industry. These are people on other sides that are just much smarter than I am. You know, but you know what I'm saying? Like some kind of rating where teams outperform their ownership in some way. You know, or pitchers outperform their ownership in some way. And I'm sure someone with that could code this. Some like Goldie plus guy can do this. I just can't. But me as a user, as someone who bets on this stuff, I'd love to know that. I just don't know how to access that. But yes. So let's move on. So the last game, I guess I'll start. Texas against Oakland. So in a vacuum, I have Texas as another really good team to get to. And I don't know if I'll be able to afford them either, honestly, but that's a team I want to get to. And I have Dane Dunning and Waldachek for that matter, as part of this whole group of lower owned pitchers that I might have to try in GPPs. The Dunning thing, I'll tell you something really interesting about the Dunning play. Okay. I mentioned the White Sox, right? So he had 39 against the White Sox, and he had 37 against Detroit, and he's basically just completely pedestrian against like the normal teams, right? But if Oakland is not a normal team, then maybe this is another ceiling opportunity for him. Yeah. You know? So I don't know. I maybe people won't play him again because I'm not playing him off of this performance like Sheets always doesn't want to do. But you know, if people forget to play him, people are going to look kind of dumb if he has another great game like this against another crappy team. So he's definitely in my mix. So Dunning and Texas, and I just can't ever play Waldachuk. Yeah, I just can't do it. If I get there in GPPs, I mean MME maybe, but I'm not intentionally hand building a lineup with him in it against Texas. It's just not happening. So that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I too like Dunning a little bit. I have him just below Sandoval, but right there, like I think that he's totally viable. I actually have look, this is nothing earth-shattering to say that Texas and Atlanta are my favorite teams, but I think Texas is actually my favorite stack of the night. And the thing about them is there's three really expensive bats in their lineup, but everybody else is extremely affordable. Partly it's because they don't have everybody healthy right now, but Duran should be in the middle of the lineup, right? He's 3,700. Nate Lowe at 4,400 is very reasonable. Mitch Garver, 3,500 to catch it. Then you've got Grossman, probably this Ornelas guy, and then Tavares down at the bottom. But I think all of those guys. I think that maybe you do like stack a 1, 2, 4, 7, 8 or something like that, and you can kind of afford it. But they are my favorite. I'm deciding right now between Texas, Milwaukee, Boston, Atlanta, and then the Mets are my fifth team that I'm considering. But Texas, Atlanta being my two favorites. I just don't know if I can get to Atlanta. The Sandoval, Cole, Peralta will probably be my three highest owned pitchers because I'm going to try to force Atlanta in, which means I'm probably going to end up with some Sandoval Dunning or maybe some Cease Dunning or Cease Sandoval, something like that. So I can try and get some Atlanta and Texas in as a full stack. So that's my sum up, and that means do not do what I say, do what Sheets says, because he's been doing a lot better than I have been. You want to run a SaberSim build before we get out of here?
Yeah, we're gonna do that right now. All right, okay. So now again, we're gonna be using this. This could not even, this might even not even resemble what it is at the end of the before lock, because projections change based on lineups and ownership changes based on ownership, whatever. But here is I've already preloaded the true DFS projections along with my ownership projections as well. And so let's just build, you know, I guess 150 lineups. Let's just see what we get to. And I kind of like gave it away earlier because I already maybe somehow it's changed in the last 5 minutes. But you'll probably end up seeing the same thing. You probably end up seeing like a bunch of Peralta and Strider, probably together with all the Kansas Cities, I guess, and maybe some Res Snyders one-offs and stuff like that, or maybe the let's just see though. All right, so yeah, like literally all the Kansas City. But let's just take a look at how it breaks down. So first of all, what I like to do, if you want to do a build, again, this is kind of instructive. The first thing before you even look at who we like, we'll go into stack types, and just for I'm going to get rid of like the types of stacks I don't want. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of these 4-2-2s. I'm going to get rid of 3-3s. I'm going to get rid of 3-2s. I'm going to get rid of 4-2s. And just because Bobby's here, we'll leave something in. We'll leave a 4-3 in, a little bit of 4-3. And the majority of them are 5-man stacks. So then I'll go into team stacks and see where it is. And yeah, it says 50% Kansas City.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the next highest owned is actually Toronto, followed by the Cubs. And then Boston. Now, before we even get into the pictures, I'm going to go into let's see how this breaks down between 5-man stacks versus whatever. And yeah, 42% of the lineups are 5-man Kansas City stacks.
Wow.
And you see, I mean, everybody's under 3K, you know, except for Witt. I mean, Witt's 5.5, and literally everybody else is 3K or below. They're not even putting in Perez. They're giving you because they're projected at fifth, hitting fifth, you know. Then we look at the pitchers. We're going to have Peralta and Strider, 68% Peralta, 30% Strider, 20% Cease, and then there's Waldachek. So what I want is I want to see how many like Peralta Striders there are together. So what you can do is hit plus Peralta, and then yeah, so so about 10% of the lineups have Peralta and Strider together. Mm-hmm. There's just as many Peralta Ceases and Peralta. This is interesting. There's just as many Peralta Coles as there are Peralta Striders. So then here's another one we'll do. Let's see like what kind of Striders there are. So of all the Striders, actually the most pairing with the Strider is Peralta. So about 10% of the lineups in total are Strider Peralta together. And then they're even dumpster diving into the Cole Reagans or whatever. So it really, I hate to put it this way, but it depends on what you want to do. You know, like SaberSim's algorithm, that they say that they find it more important to get to the Strider and get to Peralta as opposed to getting to the better hitting environment. So if this were my build, I wouldn't say believe this, but I would change some stuff. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I would literally go in and go less. I would go less Kansas City. I'd probably manually boost some Texas just to see what I would get. Like for example, you look at this. Look at Texas. Let's see what the lineups look like with Texas. So with Texas lineups, this is what you end up getting. Well, you can actually get some. Well, actually, only a 2-man. You have any 5-man Texases? Yeah, let's see what it would look like. So to get to 5-man Texases, we're getting this Reagans and Peralta.
Right.
A Peralta Cease isn't bad, but then you get 5 Texases and you get like one-offs with Pittsburgh, Jordan Diaz, and like a one at bat or Austin Slater. You know what I mean, or whatever.
One at bat, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So, and this is what you play around with. So 6 o'clock we will be live, and I am good for 6 o'clock by the way tonight.
Oh, awesome.
And we'll see if we can't keep the good stuff going.
All right, I might just sit back and listen and then see you do a build again, so I can try and win the 100K this time.
Hey, whatever works for anybody. I don't care.
All right, well, good luck today, man. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you at 6.